Welcome back to Quantum Conversations. My name is Sarah, and today my co-host Carrie Bennett and I are going to be making these complex topics of quantum biology and circadian biology understandable to the everyday person. Thank you so much for tuning in. We ask that if you are listening on audio only, that you take a moment to leave us up to a 5-star review. And if you're on YouTube, leave us a like, leave us a comment. It will help to get the show out to more people. And before we jump into today's topic, just a quick reminder to head down to the show notes and check out my free resources as well as Carrie's free resources. We also do have courses on a variety of topics. If you are hoping to dive deeper, Carrie and I both have practitioner courses available as well for anyone who wants to begin to bring these topics to their clients and help them to implement these strategies into their daily lives. So check those out. We also have a co-taught course called Quantum Fertility that is available that allows people and practitioners to work on their fertility using these principles of quantum biology and circadian biology. Again, thank you so much for listening or watching today's show, whichever one you are doing. And let's go ahead and jump into it now. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Quantum Conversations. We're going to talk about the basics today because Kara and I were just talking, and I've been on a lot of one-to-one calls over the last couple of weeks. I've had a ton of conversations with people, and I'm generally finding that people are there's too much information
out there in general, right? To then put into like a coherent starting plan.
Yeah, exactly. And as much as we put out, I think people still just get really confused about the most important things they need to do in order to implement this information and feel better.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think this is kind of a good refresher for people, or, new people come across this information, and sometimes you got to play catch up where it's like, we're talking about, I don't know, not supplementing vitamin D in the winter. And it's like, but wait, where do I begin? So here we go.
Exactly. Yeah. Or if you have a spouse or a loved one that they see you making some changes and they're like, wow, look at all these amazing things that this person is doing now. They're doing so great. And you just kind of want to give that person an intro to this stuff and what the important things are that they need to focus on. That's what we're going to cover today.
Yeah. And so we have different categories that we talk about. Mm-hmm. So for example, there's light, there's hydration and water. We talk about earthing and grounding a lot. Sometimes we'll talk about different products like sauna or red light therapy. And so, but in spite of all that, we always start with light.
Yes, always. Yes.
It lays the foundation. And the reason why we start with light is because light, or the brain's perception of time, dictates every aspect of organ function, the hormones that get released, the other chemicals that get produced, the proteins that are, it's all a vast majority of it needs a timing mechanism behind it to know when to do its job. So light literally lays a very strong foundation. And it's not just all light. You've talked about the circadian dead zone before, or we've talked to Glenn Jeffrey, who's a light researcher, who says light's effective at this time of day, but not this time of day. And so when you're laying the foundation of using light to support your health or your healing, we always start with morning time.
Morning. Yep. Absolutely.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, it's just, that is the simplest thing for people that they need to understand is morning. And I'm working on a post right now for my Circadian app page. It's sunrise and UVA. Those windows are the ones you want to focus on and kind of going out. And I would say a little bit of sunrise, more UVA if you have to choose between the two.
Yes.
So maybe we can just talk about that a little bit. And
Well, step one is, if it's not sunrise in your environment yet, you put on your orange tone blue blockers. You have to protect your brain from thinking the day has started yet. So for example, if I wake up and the first thing I do is look at my cell phone, that bright shock of blue is going to fast forward my brain into the middle of the afternoon. Right. And so I need to protect that so I would put on the orange toe blue blockers. And then you go out, you go outside at sunrise or near sunrise. Consistency over perfection. The brain's not stupid. The body's not stupid. Do the best you can with that. But what your brain will perceive when you take naked eyes outside at sunrise is an increasing brightness and increasing blue light from a very low amount of blue light to slowly increasing. That is a signal of morning, because those little sensors in the backs of our eyes that sense blue light, they start to fire off and communicate that to the clock in my brain. But they'll be firing off like, oh, there was none because I was blocking blue light from entering my eyes. Now there's a little, now a little more. And every minute, now a little more. And so the brain is smart enough to say, oh, this amount and intensity of lux and blue light signals the start of the day. And that's what we have people do. Now, you and I have been making these public recommendations and private recommendations in our community for years now. And what we had to do was really sort through the information that was out there. Or, you know, people were putting out information, like we were reading a ton of research. I looked at the work of Dr. Alexander Wunsch. You know, you start to, you dive into this research and you're like, gosh, do I need to spend all morning outside at sunrise to get the effect? And when I started for my own sake, I didn't have time for that, right?
Right.
It's
like
a lot
of people don't.
Got to get my kids to school, got to get prepped for work. And so I started to say, well, what if I just said, okay, I'm going to commit to 2 or 3 minutes every morning, as much as I can. And then on the days when I've got the time, let's say on a Saturday morning, let me do a little bit more. Or sometimes when my mom takes the kids to school at 2, I got a little bit more time. So let me see if I just make about a 3-minute chunk of time, like a consistency.
Every day.
Every day. And it turns out that has been very effective for me and many of my community members as well, right?
Same.
So it seems as though, based on all of our observations with ourselves, with also our communities, is that the brain just needs the kickstart of the morning to know that morning has started. You give it that stimulus consistently, it says, oh, I know what to do now. Let me tell the mitochondria to start, making pregnenolone that can become cortisol. And right. So it's this kickstart, the effect that happens. I mean, so that's a general recommendation right there. Morning time, sunrise, be consistent, but 2 to 3 minutes consistently is way more effective than 20 minutes once a week, twice a week.
Right. Definitely. Yeah. So just do what you can.
Yeah.
For me, usually sunrise is uninterrupted. My kids are usually still sleeping. So I'll take breakfast out there.
Lucky.
Drink. I know I really am blessed. A big fuzzy blanket because it's been like 20 degrees the last week out there, snowing.
Oh, yeah, you got it cold.
Yeah, it's been cold here. But I've adapted to it. I've been fine. Like I spent an hour out there the morning that it was snowing crazy. I was out there for an hour.
Isn't it so quiet and pretty though?
Not when you live next to people who have 3 kids.
Well, they're having fun. They're like, ooh.
I was just like, you guys never go outside and it's like 7:30 in the morning and you're like screaming and like, oh,
I love the joy of snow for people who are not used to it.
It was really cute because we haven't had snow here since 2018. And the dad's like, we're getting in the hot tub today. And they're like all excited. And I'm just like trying to have my like quiet time.
It's so cute.
Were they out again the rest of the day? No.
The novelty wore off. My college roommate was from California, and the very first time it snowed, it was October, and it snowed like 16 inches, which is unusual for a first snow. I mean, lots and lots of snow. Yeah. And I remember her, like, we went outside. She was like picking it up and like tossing it with so much joy. And then I remember her packing it into a snowball and bringing it inside and putting it in like a shared bathroom.
The freezer. Oh yeah.
No, in the sink, and it melted. No. And she goes back 30 minutes later. She's like, "Where'd my snowball?" I'm like, It melted.
Yeah.
Oh, she's so sweet. Just the innocence of like, what do I do with snow? Like, what's happening? It's just so cute. I love it. I cherish that memory. But we digress, right? We digress.
Yeah. So just really with the sunrise, you want to just do what you can and be consistent with it. I think, again, what I said already, if you have more time to like do a walk. I know that you usually drop your kids off, do a UVA walk before you sit down and start working for the day. That's where a lot of really important things happen. So sunrise, just to back up, is where the brain starts to get the signal it's daylight, the blue light's starting to come onto the horizon. communicating with the brain, turn on the HPA axis, HPG axis. It's
Thyroid.
like thyroid. It's really getting revved up for the day.
The gut, the pancreatic axis, the gut starts to understand that food will be available at some point. We need to kind of get that revved up. Yeah.
I like to look at it as like you just turning the on switch.
Yeah. Yep.
Fat burning, TCA cycle gets like revved up. And so it's like just it's an on switch for the day, right?
Exactly.
And you don't want the on switch to come from your phone. You don't want it to come from overhead lights because, like you said, the brain's like, oh, it's like noon in summertime. And so what kind of a confusing signal do you think that is for all these different organ systems?
Right.
And hormonal systems. Right.
Exactly.
Right.
And there is something that is called circadian predictability that we've touched on a couple of times. And so it's this idea that if you do this consistently enough, let's say you're traveling and you skip, or you got a sick kid and you skip, like that's okay, right? Because if you do it consistently enough for a certain stretch of time, and everyone's a little different in terms of how long they need to work this process for that circadian predictability to kick in. But then it becomes okay. That's where it's like, oh, okay, my brain still knows. Even though I didn't give that exact morning light signal, my brain still knows, and it knows what to do. So that's the cool part about this too, right? It's like ultimately, we have a circadian rhythm. Even people who live in bunkers, right, underground, can maintain a semblance of a circadian rhythm, but it's not going to be the exact 24-hour clock. It'll be either a little longer or shorter than usual, which ultimately over time throws off the symphony in the body of all the processes that need to sync up accordingly.
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So then the next window of time, and I really pulled this one from Alexander Wunsch, right? Dr. Wunsch, the light doctor. If I remember viewing a presentation he gave of this beautiful slide, and he showed that there are these chemicals that have these ring-shaped structures in them that look like hexagonal rings. They're called benzene rings in chemistry. And these ring-shaped structures are actually very strong ultraviolet photon acceptors. So they are looking for ultraviolet light. And when they receive ultraviolet light, that ultraviolet light is a very strong energy, stronger than the blue wavelength, stronger than violet, right? We're talking ultraviolet, a more powerful wavelength range of light, that then when these ringed molecules capture that strong light, it gives them the energy to kickstart these different cascades. So for example, the ring-shaped structure of tryptophan, which is an amino acid that makes us feel really kind of groggy and tired and still kind of sleepy, when it gets energized with ultraviolet light, that tryptophan becomes serotonin. Phenylalanine can become dopamine, right? And norepinephrine. And so it's enough energizing in that ultraviolet light to kickstart these pathways involving, let's say, neurotransmitters and other kind of thyroid. Actually, the thyroid hormone cascade is in there. You have L-DOPA, right? So there's a lot of things that can get benefited from with the appearance of ultraviolet light. So the order of the appearance of these colors matters. You have to view it as like a crescendo of light layering on in the types of the colors and the intensity, and then a decrescendo. And so that crescendo aspect of light is essential. We are finding clinically that it's not that, yes, that ultraviolet light can have benefit all day long. Yes. But if you want the biggest bang for the buck that we're talking about to start off with in terms of better mental clarity, better energy, better metabolism. Right. I've had people with no thyroid gland actually use maximizing UVA light within 4 hours of that, within 4 days, they needed to talk to their doctor about adjusting their thyroid medication.
Same.
And so it's like, it's powerful. This is a powerful window of time. And we do find though that I think it has to do with the brightness of the light. And I think it has to do with the power of the ultraviolet light and its first appearance in the morning. That is why we recommend about a 20-minute or more window of time during that UVA rise period. Yeah. And 20 minutes, I mean, it was arbitrary. Like when we started putting this information out, when I started teaching this, like, I don't know, 4 years ago now, like to clinicians and stuff like that, before that, it was arbitrary. Like maybe 5 minutes is all we need. And I'm like, 5 minutes doesn't feel great. But then I would be consistently getting these 20-minute walks or longer. And I'm like, well, that feels good. Let's up the recommendation. So we started teaching that. And then that holds true. It holds consistent. That UVA rise of about 20 minutes or more as many days a week as you can get
Yeah.
really will provide the benefits that we describe when we're talking about UVA rise.
Yep. And there's the flavor, I guess, if you will, of the brightness or the lux as well. There's a ton of scientific data on that to show the metabolic benefits, fat burning, appetite regulation, reduction in BMI when
Yes.
done consistently as well. And the lux is going to vary. Like the further north that you are, the less lux you're going to have, but it's still important. You're still getting the ultraviolet light. And so I see anywhere from 1,300 up to 10,000. Here, I get easily 10,000 lux at UVA.
Right.
It's sometimes way more than that.
Yeah, it's much and it depends on if it's snowing and it's reflect.
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of variables
There's
in there. But typically, when I look at the lux, to get the effect that I really feel like I feel with UVA rise, it really has to be about 3,000 or more.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
it's how much time you're out there as well. I think
true,
that matters.
true.
Because with the Lux studies, it was done 3 days a week, 5 days a week. They didn't do that brightness every single day. And then again, with the SAD boxes, I always have to say that there were side effects of some people feeling mania, headaches,
Poor sleep, right?
poor
Yeah,
sleep,
yeah.
insomnia.
Mhm.
So some circadian disruption, some hormone disruption. So that's why we always say outside is always better. And I know a lot of people are going to Huberman's work this time of year, and he'll always say on a rainy, cloudy day, spend double as much time out there. And they're like, I can't do that. He does have a little bit of a point when it comes to the lux or the brightness, because when the lux is lower, say like 800, in order to get those benefits of lux, you're going to want to stay out there a little bit longer. You have
Yes.
to dial this in to fit your life, obviously.
Consistency over perfection.
100%. So don't stress out over it if you can't get it perfect. Just go out there anyway. But go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I think a really good general awareness for people is get Sarah's app, know when sunrise is in your location, know when UVA rises, and then add an extra hour onto that.
Mhm.
That becomes your window of morning light exposure.
Yeah.
Do the best you can to get that sunrise and that UVA rise, but if you can't, still get
Get
outside
in those windows.
and get in as much time
Yeah.
outside as you can. I really think that there's a sweet spot with, if you can't do it as consistently like we're talking about, this is going to sound like a lot, but I'm going to say 45 minutes in that, let's say 3 hour chunk of time or so, 45 minutes. But mine includes sunroof open. Yes, in the middle of winter, snowing, sunroof open while I'm driving. I don't get the sunlight right now going to school, but I'm on my way home from school. Sunrise happens. I'm getting that light signaling into my eyes. When I pull into the driveway, I don't go all the way into the garage at first. I sit in my car, windows down for a little while. I'm usually talking with my mom, or I listen to some podcast or music or something. And so same thing. It's like I'm still getting that light signaling. I don't have to be just outside, just sky gazing.
Right.
For 45 minutes.
That's the other thing I'm finding with people in my coaching is that I'm like, bring in other things that you enjoy into that time. For me, sunrise is always breakfast, a warm beverage, maybe warm water with lemon.
Yes.
My fuzzy blanket that I have to hide from my kids because they keep trying to steal it. So like the things I love, a breakfast I enjoy that's warm, that warms me up so I can sit out there in the cold, a warm drink that's warming me up.
Warm. I don't think let's make a small side note on this. Warm water is so well absorbed, or hot even is so well absorbed by the body. And not only does it subjectively feel soothing in colder temperatures, but it's really well absorbed. And if you have bowel issues, it's more likely to help facilitate a bowel movement first thing in the morning. So
exactly. So you don't necessarily have to rely on the coffee to get the bowel movement to happen, which I know is a thing because it was for me for many, many years. That's why I was afraid to give up the coffee. And I still do have some coffee now, but I will go through my morning routine first, and then I'll have a cup. And I might be cutting it out again, but not until February because I have a lot of coaching calls to get through this month. My January is like a complete crazy town.
And I don't know about you. I never do. I still like a cup of coffee here, but I don't I don't do it because I need the energy. I love the
No, I
taste of
just enjoy it. It's the
the
ritual, the
warmth, the ritual, the
taste.
smell.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much about it that actually, like, yeah, the taste. I think the
Mhm.
bitter really feels good to me. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, that you got to stack in and bring in things like you talking to your mom or listening to a
yeah,
podcast, being in the car, things that are enjoyable, especially when it's really cold outside and it's a little bit harder to get motivated to do it.
yep,
Um, you got to find the things that you stack in there that you're going to be doing anyway
yeah,
that make it enjoyable. And yeah, like
exactly.
you doing your walk. Um,
It's my favorite time to
yeah,
walk. I mean,
yeah,
I'll walk anytime, but that morning chunk of time, I just love it.
yeah. It's so good for you. It is so good for
And
you.
let me tell people this. When I was first just getting into this, remember, I still owned a gym, right? And so I think
Mhm.
if people have heard my story, it's like I was still having to get to the gym to open it up for a boot camp class and other trainers and stuff at like 5 o'clock in the morning. And I wasn't that great with the light in the, at first. One of the very first thing I started to be consistent with was at about 8:30 in the morning, walking to the coffee shop, which
Mm,
was about a 20-minute walk there and a 20-minute walk back. So
yeah.
I look back and I'm like, that was UVA rise. And that in and of itself, even without being really diligent about controlling, that I still noticed like a mental clarity that was happening or an energizing effect from that. And it wasn't the coffee because I was feeling it on the way there, and not just after I had my coffee as well. So yeah, again, just like consistency. It doesn't have to be perfect. Your body will get the information it needs,
Yeah.
but we do prioritize that morning light to the best of our abilities
Yeah.
because of how clinically important that time of day has been for people.
Yeah, it is. And when you really, I've again kind of been digging more into the research. Like I've already looked at this stuff, but I'm pulling it out more for the My Circadian app Instagram page, trying to build that up, post more information there because I'm getting more people there. And yeah, when you look at light exposure through the day, a bright morning and a dim evening is heavily correlated with a better functioning metabolism. And on the other side of that, a dim morning and a bright night is correlated with, and they actually have physical data to show that it slows down the metabolism to have that dim day, bright night. And how many people are just doing
That's
that?
what it is.
It's
You could even be in an office, but I'm sure,
right.
right? You could measure
It's
the
dim.
lux. It's
The lux in your office is under 500, most likely. We want to talk a little bit about why we both use more red light therapy in the winter, really quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Come summer, it is so easy for me to pop outside for 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, take the clothes off and just soak up the natural light, right? And I know you do, I know you do the same. And it's beautiful because we're getting all of those red and near infrared wavelengths from the sun and imparting all those healing benefits from sunlight. But come, November, December in Michigan, there's very little opportunity for me to do that. It's just too cold, and so I'll go outside and get my light signaling through my eyes, but my skin really that infrared and red that I want to absorb through my skin is just lacking. And so that's why I would highly recommend if you live in an environment like that, you consider using a red light therapy panel in the winter. It can be the biggest game changer.
Yeah. And we both love the Bon Charge Mini. This is super convenient. You can take it with you traveling. You guys don't know when I'm recording the podcast, half the time I have it on my low back or somewhere in my body
Yeah.
to mitigate some of this blue light. And for the months of November and December, you can use the code QuantumPod25 for November and December only to get 25% off the panel or anything on the Bon Charge website. Carrie and I are both big fans.
Yeah, and one more thing really quickly with that. It's a great gift too, right? If you want
Oh,
to start
yes.
getting people involved in this lifestyle and say it's the most convenient way, if there's a mom that you know who needs to tend to boo-boos and aches and pains for kids or earaches, tummy aches, sore throats, it's a phenomenal gift to give as well because it really can wipe away pain very fast.
I love it. All right, check it out. Link is in the show notes. It's way too dim. If you step outside, like right now, middle of the day, it's probably like, I don't know, 100,000 lux here because we're in Georgia. It's pretty bright. In my office here, it's probably like, especially have no lights on, it's probably like 30 lux. And so throughout the day, I've been doing these coaching calls, but in between, I'm going out in the cold,
Outside.
but looking straight, in the direction of the sun, standing there barefoot, just walking around my backyard and coming back inside. But that's what I do when I have to be on more of these calls and be in my office more where it's dim. I need to continue reinforcing that signal. And I've had that morning time. That morning time is sacred. I will not schedule anything.
Same.
I figure out a way to deal with it with my kids. My son was out there this morning, running around on the patio, cracking me up. But we understand it. And I think we talked about this last week. Once you start to understand something and the importance of it for your body and say, this is something I want to do, things will start to happen. Society is not going to do it for you, because I'll get comments all the time. Well, I have this, I have that, this, I have to work. This, I get it. Your life, society does not set you up for this lifestyle. No. You got to figure it out. And you have to figure out how to make it work. If it's you're working in an office, take a quote unquote smoke break. Figure out ways to get out during that.
And we're not saying actually smoke, just go outside.
No, don't smoke. Don't pick up smoking.
Don't like a smoke. No, but seriously, like we've worked with enough people who have pretty set schedules, teachers, bankers, nurses, typical office workers, or even like machinists and like industrial, like people who work in industry where that's like they got their, you can have your 2 15-minute breaks and your lunch, but they make it work because they know that during their break time, they go outside.
Yep.
And when the light environment lets them, in terms of it's for circadian friendly, they go outside and they have like in the northern latitudes, we have a ton of early light in the spring, summer, fall, right? To be able to get some time outside, even if it's just in the car. I've had so many people recommendations. One of the things is, well, what do I do with my makeup? Like I got to put my makeup on, right? And it's like, makeup looks better when you put on a natural light. Go and drive your car to work, park somewhere where no one's going to see you, but you're still in natural light, and do your makeup with your windows down, right? Yeah. And it's, again, you start to find, like you said, when you say this is a priority for me, solutions start to present themselves.
It's the law of attraction. We keep coming back to that. But once you say this is the thing that I'm going to do, and you feel that, and it's truth within you, things start to happen. You start to vibrate that, and doors start to open that weren't previously available necessarily, or you didn't realize they were available, and you start to shift and change your life. It really does work that way. Be open to that possibility. And the thing is that you and I everyone is so obsessed with like a new diet for the new year. But why we start with this is, I keep talking about these one-on-one calls, but I just had one right before this, and she's new to this work. And she's like, I can't believe this, because in her intake form, she had said she was struggling with nighttime snacking. She filled out that intake form about a month ago, because I just started doing my one-to-ones. And I said, how's the nighttime snacking going? She's like, I stopped. I'm like, let's talk about that. And she's like, Sarah, all I've done is what you're talking about with light, because she's in my private group doing my leptin course. She's like, I'm just doing the light stuff. And she's in Minnesota. She's freaking cold. Oh my God.
My people.
She's doing it. She's doing the morning. She's doing the morning super consistent. And she's consistent in the evening too with the lighting. And she's got a little panel going for her office. Like she's shifted all of her lights. She hasn't made drastic changes with food. And she's like, I haven't wanted to nighttime snack. I'm not doing it anymore. It's stopped. I'm like, this is why we start with this first, because telling someone stop snacking, stop doing this, stop doing that.
Well, stop snacking and then give your brain blue light at night to think it's the middle of the day, right, and you need to find food.
Right. That's why people are not the only reason. There's emotional reasons why people eat too. But if your brain is like, oh, we're making cortisol, like might be 8 p.m., 9 p.m., but you've got blue lights on, TV on, phone screen in your face, telling your brain it's noon. All these things that we just talked about with the hormones, the digestive system, you're restarting those clocks. And so of course you're going to think you got to go hunting for some food. You got to have some food. You got to eat, because the clocks in your brain think it's the middle of the day. but it's not. And so
it seems too good to be true until you try it. There's a creator who doesn't necessarily get circadian stuff, but I really appreciate what he puts out. I'm not gonna name his name, but he recently did a post where he was just like, "Oh, the light people are just getting out of hand on social media." Like he said, you're gonna get so much more change and shift if you work on your diet than if you do anything with sunlight. And he's like, "What does sunlight give you except a tan and maybe some vitamin D?" And it's just like
who is this person?
I know. I was shocked that he put that out there because I really actually liked. I like a lot of what he talks about.
I don't know who it is. You're gonna have to tell me off camera now.
But no, I mean, but it's like I think that's the general thought. It's too good to be true.
I thought the same thing when I was doing carnivore, and I've told this story 100 times. When I was doing carnivore, Kelly Bento was in my DMs. And I was like, this woman is nutso. Like,
no way, Kelly was in your DMs.
Kelly Bento was in my DMs ragging on me about my AirPods and ragging on me about my sunglasses and ragging on me about the blue light. And I was like, this woman's effing insane. Go away. Kelly. I was so mad. I was so angry. I was like, she needs to just go away. And now I love Kelly. I think Kelly's awesome. And so
Kelly was your like, angel on earth right here being like, lady, you're missing a huge chunk of stuff.
Kelly really, like, she connected me in with people in the community that really turned me on to this being a possibility of, wait a minute, this could legitimately change my life. And I finally did make the leap, but it was probably a year. I think it started in 2020 because I remember
you were an early adopter though. Because remember, you were a part of me and Corey's very first, like the OG group. Mm-hmm. And like, I mean, you were an early adopter of like wanting, like, you're one of those people who like it sits with you. It's like, it annoys you until you're like, let me think about this. And then let me look into it. And then you're like, holy cow, I need to know everything I possibly can know.
That's me. That's how a lot of people are. And they're just like, I got to do it all. Yeah, that's how I was though. But I mean, you forget because you're in this bubble with all of us, with me and Carrie and, people who are talking about this, but you forget how everyone else thinks. And they're like, oh, the light stuff, oh, blue light. Oh, non-native EMF. Oh. And it sounds like some pie in the sky, silly thing. But when you actually start doing it, like that client I just was talking to, she was literally shook. She's like, how am I not snacking? This has been a problem. She's my age. She's in her mid 40s. She's like, this has been a problem my entire life of eating at night. And now all I did was change my lighting. You're going to tell me that's all I had to do was start going outside in the morning and then blocking blue light at night. And I could stop snacking and like being obsessed with food every night. I'm like, yes. It's wild.
You're not alone. I mean, that happens all the time because no one's my brain, whenever I signal darkness, my brain's not like, ooh, I need that ice cream. My brain's like, no, do not put any food into it.
That's how I am too. I'm like, oh, gonna mess up my sleep.
Yeah, I don't care. I used to be, we talked about this. I used to be the sweet tooth. Like I need a sweet or this and now it's
fried fruit and nuts every night. I'd come home from teaching yoga. I'd make a big bowl of like walnuts and dried apple slices and dried mango slices and like
yeah, but be real. If there was cookies and stuff, I would eat those. My energy balls, that I was convincing myself were healthy.
I used to do those too. No,
I would make I wouldn't even put them in balls anymore. I just would make like a big bowl of them and stick it in the refrigerator. And like I had like these little melon ball scoopers. And
mine was also like rice cakes and almond butter with banana slices on top. That was one that would get me as well. Yeah. But now I can't even.
No, I just don't. It doesn't sound good to me. Which is a miracle. Frankly, it's a miracle.
It is a miracle because that was probably my biggest struggle was eating at night. And now I can easily, like today, my goal is to do a little fasting today just because I've been like on the overindulgence train lately.
But not at night.
Not at night. Just during the day. Just like I'll still stop eating at 5:00, but I'm going to eat whatever I want, So I probably will fast a little bit today and I'm fine with it. It's just like once I make that decision to turn the eating off, turn the lights down, go take a warm bath, like chill, wind down, get the extra sleep. it doesn't even register to want to do
Totally.
that. And so I think people that are wanting to make changes this time of year and they want to know what are the big things that I need to do, we always say the morning sunlight and the evening routine, blocking blue light and keeping it nice and dim.
That's the next one, I
Yeah.
think, right? That we need to
Yeah.
make sure. So recap morning, block the artificial light until sunrise, get a hit of sunrise, 3 or more minutes if you can, but it doesn't have to be perfect in terms of being 20, 40 minutes. Get outside at UVA rise. Again, typically we do see a benefit of at least 20 minutes out there, and then go about your day and do little light breaks like Sarah and I do. Right? We go outside. I will, typically between this, before we start recording, I finish a Q&A. I know you typically finish doing something related for work, and we're usually texting each other. And now we kind of just know if the other person's like, we're a little late.
5 minutes.
We're using the bathroom and then we're going outside. Right?
Yep.
It's let me pee and then go outside really quickly and then come back down here. So it's just part of the routine now. And again, I never thought little 30-minute or 2-minute light or 30-second or 2-minute light breaks throughout the day. They're huge. Yeah.
I feel it turned everything, I had some crappy comments on Facebook. Oh, I really would love to delete that app, but I still have to use it sometimes.
Can we do a public service announcement? Kindness with your comments just goes so much longer. Just
People
so much
who
farther.
need to hear it aren't going to hear it, but
I know it's not good for your brain to be in this angry mode all the time. It's not good for the collective whole of energy that we're all feeding off of. It's not good for us to read these comments that just aren't nice. So
my resolution for this year is to figure out a way to delete the Facebook app and never go there again.
Just delete it.
If I didn't, I just have to use it. Unfortunately,
I know. You got Facebook ads.
I know, and my group, the group is still there, and I can't. It's the Kajabi group is just junk. It's it doesn't.
It's hard at first. It doesn't have the same functionality.
It doesn't have the same functionality, and I've got 5 years of archive, and it's just a whole thing. So until I come up with a better idea, I have to do it, but. Yeah, I just I realized that when I read that comment, and I just felt I started feeling, so I just went and sat outside in the cold, barefoot, sun, close my eyes, take a deep breath. Better, it's instantaneous that you can feel the cortisol going down.
Yep.
You can feel the shift happening. And so don't underestimate the importance and the power of these little times where you just get the moment for your nervous system to go outside, touch the cement, touch the grass, whatever, touch earth, grounding, sun, just do it. Yeah.
It makes a difference. It really does. So that's the morning. And then with our kind of light recommendations, we'll also hear this, right? Clinically, well, I'm doing all the morning stuff, right? And I'm not noticing as big of a difference. Well, if you're not also addressing the nighttime, they go
what do we
hand
say
in
about
hand.
the appetite and the food? If your brain still thinks it's daytime, guess what's going to happen?
If your brain doesn't know to wind down and actually repair your tissues, your symptoms may still, be appearance. Exactly. Right. So then but that's another simple one. It's number one, just dim the house to the best of your ability. Don't get obsessed about bulbs at first.
That is the worst. Don't freak out about the light bulbs, please, people. It's not that crazy.
There's enough really good quality blue blockers. And again, Sarah and I talked about this when we got our little spectrometers out. And, so we've got product recommendation guides that have blue blockers that run the spectrum in terms of prices, right? And so just do the best you can to get, but it does need to be an orange tone. I just dropped an orange tone pair of blue blockers. The clear stuff is not going to do it, right? Orange tone pair of blue blockers. And then you again, look at Sarah's app and see. Make dim it. See, you make sure the house is dim, especially dim. You can use her app to see if it's dim when you have your blue blockers on. So make sure it's dim enough. Put these on, and you'll feel
immediately. Yeah.
Happens very, very quickly. And so I would encourage you you have to do that on that. Your brain has to know nighttime. In the same way that the brain has to know daytime, your brain has to know nighttime to be able to run all of the nighttime repair programs. And so it's just kind of end capping the day. So and again, maybe you're blocking all the artificial light at night, but you're not doing blocking it first thing in the morning, and you're not doing the morning stuff again, you're not necessarily going to see the effects that Sarah and I are talking about that we have experienced and then we see in clinical practice.
Yeah. And you can't ignore the lux factor. Like I've even been playing with my evening because I have a big Inferno, which is like the bigger panel that EMR Tech has. And I would just turn it on infrared only. I would turn it away from my bathtub. And it was measuring when I was in the tub, like 6 lux, but which is like dim enough, right? Technically. I started using this small little fire wave and putting that on infrared only, which if you guys have a fire wave or any EMR Tech, the infrared is the LED, not the cob. The cob is way too bright.
Way too bright.
So the fire wave on infrared only, facing away, laying in my tub, 0 lux. I could still see. But I felt a difference in my nervous system also because I've just been not really doing great with like everything else in my life, stress-wise.
A lot going on.
So it's my own fault. I've really had to just dial in and control the things that I can with morning light and then evenings, making those like super dim. So I felt an immediate difference with that. And it was technically below the 10 to do the Inferno. But even when I just brought the brightness down, I was like, oh, wow. Okay. This is a big difference. So don't underestimate the impact of even a red light. If it's too bright, what that could be doing to keep you awake, to the nervous system. Yeah. Just food.
Yeah, totally. No, that's super helpful.
Yeah.
So that's the light foundation. Now, don't get me wrong. We talk about getting light on the skin to be able to get the benefit of lowering your blood pressure or making subcellular melatonin or making vitamin D, free energy through melanin. Like we talk about that. And that's an important thing to be aware of, but it's not where I start people with.
You don't need to worry about that just yet.
This is your foundation.
Yeah.
Get this situated for, weeks to months to get that rolling. And then we can start layering it in. And you'll know once you have that dialed in enough where it starts to become like, oh yeah, I feel a difference. I notice the shifts that they're talking about. Then you're ready to say, okay, what would be the next layer with light? And so the next layer with light would be light on the skin, but we're not going to go into that right now because we don't want to confuse you.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And it's winter time right now too. So for a lot of listeners, I know we've got your New Zealand and Australian listeners also.
Right.
But I wouldn't stress about it. Use the D timer in the My Circadian app to gauge your time outside. Oh, and we got an update this week on the app where you can actually, the location, you can type it. Cause I've been doing this with my one-to-one.
You did the manual. Thank you.
I've been doing it with my one-to-one clients. I'm like, oh, you're in.
Isn't it so helpful to walk people through it like that? Yeah.
Like, so I can type in, if I go into the app, you just there's your location will pop up in the left-hand corner. You hop on that and then you can literally, probably can't even see. You can type in city names.
Oh yeah. Enter your city name. Yep.
Yeah. And you can type in the city name. And so I've been doing that like Albuquerque, New Mexico. And then you go back in the app and I can see like Albuquerque, New Mexico, their sun's coming up at 6:15 a.m. right now.
It's so helpful working with clients. So helpful. Because then you can orient them to this app for sure.
7:15 a.m. So yeah, I can see that they have a little bit of UVB right now in Albuquerque. So it's been really helpful for clients to go into the app then and see like, all right, you have UVA, you have UVB. These are the times, and just really walk through those windows with them. But if you're in Australia, New Zealand, and you want to expose your body to the UVB, use that D timer and really make sure your settings are correct. You've got your correct Patrick skin type and
cloud cover.
Cloud cover, all of that to really, that's going to help you gauge how much time you want to be out in the strong UV light. But most people in Northern Hemisphere, not an issue right now at all.
Oh, no, not an issue.
I'm looking forward to having that problem, but it's not here.
Not here yet. Okay. So light. And, there's other things that people want that I think we'll have to at some point maybe do more foundational stuff. We can always, I don't know how much time we have left in this episode, but where do you start with water? Where do you, what if you have
thinking maybe we separate this episode out. Like today we're just doing foundations of light.
Yes.
Maybe next week we do foundations of food.
The
week after that we do foundations of like water. And then I know we had talked about doing a whole episode on melatonin, because I think that's really confusing to people also.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, I feel like, I don't know how you feel about.
I think so too. I think it's nice just to have this all light information together in one. So
yeah. So the reasons why, to sum up, that we start with light is because it's the most powerful thing you can do with the lowest amount of side effects, the lowest amount of risk, and the biggest bang for your buck for your brain, neurotransmitters, hormones, sleep, appetite, mood, everything. Like
digestion, all organ function. Yeah.
Yeah. And people always want the meal plan, the food plan. And I'm like, yes, okay, we need to do this, but the amount of energy your body makes and the amount of energy your body is able to burn, quote unquote, is dependent on these light signals being in place.
Yes.
If you have crappy circadian rhythms, if your light is crap, if you're more like I said in the very beginning with those studies, the dim day and the bright night, they show metabolism slows down. So if you want to make a dietary change, why would you not change your light environment first to have bright morning, dim evening? Give yourself a leg up before you start being militant with your food, eliminating food groups and going psychotic with the diet. Yes, most people need to eat better. Yes, I'm going to say that. And quit drinking the wine at night, please. Don't do that.
Not good for you either.
No. But let's start here first, because that's going to be so much more powerful at the end of the day.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So next week, maybe we'll talk about food.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'll prepare myself for that.
Subscribe, ring the bell so you don't miss it. We'll talk about food. Okay. Bye, y'all.